Now I'm very excited to welcome back one of our favorites and best totals better that I know, and Mr. Kyle Hunter from HunterSportsPicks.com. You can follow Kyle on X at KyleHunterPicks. Well, Kyle, here we are, my man. Last time we talked on the show was March Madness. Feels like ages ago. Definitely a lot colder in some places of the world. Now football madness is about to start. How have you been?
Man, it's awesome that we're at this point. The games are about to start. It's fun to prep for these. The season prep is fun, but I've gotten to this point, man. I need to see some games on the television here. Enough of the talking. We've seen enough debates. We got to talk about what's going to happen, and then it's going to be just a few days away now, and we're going to see live college football, and that's what I'm looking forward to. How about you?
Oh God, I'm so pumped. Yeah, it's like I've mentioned so many times, you can only talk about it so many times until we get there, and I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the most important show that I feel like I do, just because, a lot of us can say this position group's better, this one's better, blah blah blah. This team is this power rating, this team's power rating. But the truth is I really feel like you really can see a change when it comes to the tempo of these teams. And I think that's something that people can learn, that they can maybe get a better advantage of before getting into the season, right? Because once the cat's out of the bag, the cat's out of the bag after 2 or 3 weeks. At least this is something that is measurable from past performance, a lot more from some dude coming from the FCS up to the group of five.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we like to try to find some of those under the radar ones where maybe it takes a little bit longer for everybody to catch on. And that's our kind of our goal here is to uncover these ones that are not so obvious. Obviously, some of them everybody's going to know, but I think we can find some value on these, and especially if your total's better, it's really something to know because what you saw at the end of last year, it may look way different this year, and you know this, Kiev, but the NIL era, transfer portal, you can't look at what you did at the end of last season and try to extrapolate that toward this season. There's just so many differences from what there used to be. It makes it tougher to prep for the regular season, but it also does create opportunities if you put in the work.
It certainly does. And yeah, if you're betting season win totals right now, where have you been all summer? This is the type of show you need to listen to for the next thing, which I believe is the totals kind of coming in to this season. Fox Mulder says go dogs there, and kind of sees a Georgia guy. And Jay Walker 2134 Kyle the goat. Look at that, Kyle. Here you are, the goat. No, he's blushing. Look at
Nah, not the
that.
goat, but I appreciate the comment.
Yeah, some awesome people coming in the chat, and you can definitely join us and chat along with us, and talk some totals with us. It's fun, and and now I gotta ask Kyle. Pretty standard question: when do you start preparing, Kyle, for college football?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, if you were just handicapping college football, you'd start like right away afterwards and start, prep game by game, team by team. In reality, college basketball is in full swing, and I'm in college basketball mode when college football ends. And then, handicap MLB, the NBA. So it's usually about May when I start putting some time into college football. Full swing in June for sure. And, June is where you place a lot of those win total wagers. You try to get ahead of some of those moves. And, June and July is when I go in and try to look conference by conference. Kiev, I always start with the smallest conferences and end with the big guys. Like when
Sure.
people ask me even 2 or 3 weeks ago, what do you think of the SEC? I don't know. Let me get back with you. I've been digging deep in Conference USA and the Sun Belt and all that for quite
Yeah,
a while. But my win percentage is better in the smaller conferences than it is in the bigger ones, both in college
sure.
football and in college basketball. But I start in May. I start with the very smallest ones, try to look for the ones that have big changes from a year ago. I've said this here before, Kiev, but Iowa, they are what they are. Iowa's going to be the same type of team year to
Yeah.
year. They can make some changes, and I like Iowa. I mean, I like their coaching staff. I like the team, but you know what they are. There's no point in spending a ton of time prepping for Iowa when you could be prepping for a team that's had so many changes from last year. So that's my goal. May is when I get started. I'd say June it really ramps up big time.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. And it's it's to the point where, the group of six is still giving us value, but there's might be a point where you and I have to go slumming with some of our colleagues into the FCS. I don't know how much you've done that. I
Yeah.
do it here time to time. I mean, we know a little bit more. I mean, there's obviously Sagarin who does a good job, with some of those numbers and stuff. But the most FCS I've done is just from coaches coming in to FBS. To be honest with you, that's kind of like some of the info that I got, Kyle. But yeah, there could be a point where you and I delve into the FCS a little bit more. Any plans to?
I don't know. Just do I have the bandwidth to do that and handicap every other sport? I put a lot of time into college basketball. There's so many teams in college basketball. I could probably handicap FCS early in the season, but then when it got into college hoops time, I'd be splitting up too much.
Right.
I probably won't too much, but there is value there for sure. It's just there's only so much time in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I will be really talking college basketball. We're prepping October because there's going to be pace changes and tempo changes then too. So prepare for that, everyone. We love talking about that, and I think it's real important. Let's talk a little coaching hires. Then I mean, obviously everyone's like, oh, the biggest hire is Lane Kiffin, LSU, and I guess Bob Chesney's getting a lot of hype. We're going to UCLA, and you can kind of break it down whatever way you want. There's some big names that have moved, but I want to ask you what the most underrated coaching hire is this year that you think can make a pretty big difference for a team.
Well, I mean, you just mentioned him there, but I do love the Chesney hire. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why I wore the UCLA hat.
Yeah.
I took over the win total for UCLA as a big bet for me. I'll be a Bruins fan all season long. I think he's done a great job everywhere he's been. So I'll have to say him first because I definitely do like the job he's done there. I think Charles Huff's a good hire for Memphis. I don't know how it will work right away because there's a lot of change, and they don't have quite the talent that they've had in the past. I think that's a good hire for a G6 team. Um, there's plenty of names that have been put in a situation that I don't know if they can have a lot of success in year one. I think sometimes people try to grade them by year one too much. But some of these second year guys I like quite a bit. Fresno State I like with Matt Ince. I think he did a good job in the first year. I know that's kind of cheating on the question because he's
I love hearing it though. I mean,
but I like to look for these teams who they built that foundation last year, and then I think they can take that next step this year. I think Fresno could be that team this year for sure.
Yeah.
Some of these coaches are in really bad situations. Like I said, Southern Miss. I mean, Blake Anderson's a good coach, but man, what a mess they have right now. I don't think that'll go well to start with. I'm curious to see how Jim Mora Jr. does at Colorado State. I think he did a good job at UConn. I mean, honestly, far better than I thought he would do.
Yeah.
Do I think he's going to win right away at Colorado State? No, but was that a good hire? I think that was absolutely a good hire. I think that was a really quality hire. Other than that, I mean, the one that I would have ranked first would be Bob Chesney. So he's not that under the radar, but
yeah, maybe not.
I like him a lot. I mean, he's a little more under the radar than Lane Kiffin, but not as under the radar.
Maybe it's because I listen to the gambling community too much. Because it's not maybe so much for us, but maybe for the public for sure itself. Because you don't hear too much about the talk shows talking about Bob Chesney. Right. Maybe if you're listening to a podcast like a VSiN podcast, you do, but that makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna say John Sumrall going to Florida, and I got to be careful because 5 years ago we might have said Luke Fickell, going to Wisconsin, but I will say Florida definitely has the money to spend. Though they've had more money over the years, they're like the number 2, I think, when it comes to a program money to spend, and I think he's going to be set up for success. And he's done such a good job at Tulane. When you think they're going to take a step down, that team just kept coming and coming and coming. He taught the kids grit over there to believe in themselves. He's got a good OC in Buster Faulkner coming in from Georgia Tech. I I think that could be a little bit underrated, especially if Florida makes a splash soon within whether it's this year or next year. If they get to a bowl game, I think that's a win from what this team has done. But I'm going to go with him as under the radar because you picked a really good one, Chesney, because obviously nobody's talking about it, but in the public space. But yeah, it's going to be fun to see how it all breaks out, and I can't wait. Obviously, the season week 0 already starting next week, so let's go, my man. Um, Next question. So, without giving up too much information, let's help our listeners a little bit with some of your processes. How do you handicap and bet totals?
So, um, without giving away everything, it's a process where I sit down and I try to look for the biggest changes. I'm looking for things that are different than last year, especially at the beginning of the season. Like I said, if I think that the team is too much what they were like last year, I'm not interested in betting totals on them to start the season. Um, at the same time, what I'm looking for is matchup specific teams that I think I could take advantage of. Kiev, there's some teams that are just way better at stopping the run than the pass, or vice versa. And if they get matched up with the right or wrong opponent, it can really make a game go very differently. Think of like an Air Force. So, Air Force, remember the game against UNLV last year? One of my good calls from last year for sure. I think it was like 51-48 or something like,
Oh,
like a basketball
right.
score.
Yeah.
You get Air Force, a team that can run extremely well against UNLV, who's really good offensively, but they can't stop the run to save their lives. You look for those spots ahead of time going into the season. Circle those spots. That's what I've been doing a lot lately here in the last week. Yeah, just going through and looking week by week, some ones that I think I'm going to want to bet. Highlighting those in the blue highlighter or whatever it may be. Over is this color, under is this color, against or with that team. I try to do that ahead of time to have, when we get to that week, it's easier for me if I already know what some of my leans might be. Now, obviously, I'm doing power ratings on the side. I'm not the guy that just bets what my power rating says only. I want to dive into the game and look at it pretty closely. But I'm looking, if you're talking totals only, I'm looking to see what kind of pace is it going to be and what kind of efficiency do I think there will be in this game. Usually, in basketball, it's like, do you think the better team's going to control the pace? Well, controlling the pace is a little bit different in football. I mean, you can only do so much. You can snap it slower. You can run the ball consistently, but it's not exactly the same as handicapping a college basketball one. At the same time, some teams are very good at dragging you down into the mud, like in Iowa. I mean, they make it a lower scoring game somehow. Or you have some other teams that make everything high scoring just because their defense is so weak and they play so fast on offense. You look for those spots that you think would be really helpful to circle ahead of time, and then you look for the changes from the year before. Like I said, I think that having a formula that you put in, you say there's going to be this many possessions. What kind of efficiency do we think this team's going to have? What kind of efficiency are they going to give up to the other team? And then you go in, Kiev, and you look at something like a Sagarin, and you compare your number to a Sagarin. Because somebody like Sagarin, even Bill Connolly's numbers, I think are very helpful. I'll put my numbers and then I'll put the others beside. I'm okay if I'm different than them. I just want to see, do I think that's the right way to be? I'm 5 points higher. Why am I higher? Well, I think there's going to be more possessions. I think this quarterback will have success against his secondary, that type of thing. So I think comparing to other sharp people, what is publicly available, is a good way to do it if you're starting out too. And then obviously tracking the closing line. Kiev, you know this, we've talked about this before. If it opens over 55, it closes over 59, you want to pay attention to that team's getting bet to the over. It happens again the next week. Then if I like the over, I got to bet it early. If I like the under, I got to bet it at the end of the week. You need to know what the market's doing. I think a good understanding of the market is really, really important in both of the college sports. So I hope that was a good, somewhat quick synopsis.
No, that was perfect. Yeah, I don't think I've asked you that since back in the day when you were on Adam Burke's show, Hunting for Winners, your segment. blast from the past right there, and sometimes, with new bettors, you have to re-ask a question, and sometimes things change a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Iowa, they're one of the slowest teams. Wisconsin was actually the slowest team in seconds per play last year, and Ohio State was right there with them, man. It's kind of interesting to see that, I won't get you started. Sorry, I won't get you started. But yeah, looking at that score 49-51, maybe I suppose if Niagara played Northern Iowa in basketball, you get a 49-51 game. But those were also some slow games. But no, it's exciting to prepare for this, and that's great. Having a formula is huge, and having a formula kind of helps get you to the dance, and make sure that you got to make sure that you might see a number and then you have to question it, because one defense could be so freaking locked down that the other team doesn't even score. That's something to think about as well. And then you kind of jump into some of the team totals. Fox Mulder, best bets for week 0-1. Hold on, son. Let's get it through this show, and then maybe we can talk a little week 1 at the end. And our buddy Bobby Newport, always back. Thank you very much, Bobby, for your kind words. To the best. I appreciate that very much. Definitely not, I'm not. Kyle might be, but we'll see what we can do for you guys right here for some of these numbers. But here we are. It's funny. I've been working on this for a couple weeks. This article I'm going to kick out, and I always get notes from you after this show and take notes on it. But I'm not going to lie. I found fat teams going slower to faster once again than I found from faster to slower. If you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of the trend every year. But when the teams end up sucking, they have to slow it down anyway. Doesn't that sound about right?
Yeah, and the same thing happens in college basketball. I mean, who wants to say we're going to stall? We're going to slow this down. Let's try to turn this into a slog. Not many people want to say that. You have to kind of read through the tea leaves, and maybe they're saying, well, we're going to play with a hybrid tempo, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. I'm probably going to play slow. Type of thing. But yeah, I agree. It was a little easier to find faster than slower, but I did find quite a few this year.
Yeah, me too. Well, why don't we start with slow to fast? And I have about 8 major ones, but we can just kind of go back and forth. I'll start with you. What do you think is maybe one that really sticks out here? You can start tempo changing, going slower to faster.
Well, Washington State's kind of an under the radar one. They were 125th in tempo last year. I don't think they'll be a good team, so it's possible that they'll change the way they play later in the season. But Kirby Moore and Matt Miller have talked in depth about speeding things up this season. Kirby Moore with Matt Miller, Cougars are shifting away, quote, from the slower cadence of previous seasons to install an attack built on quick snap execution and elite conditioning. So if that's actually true, 125th is going to be quite a bit quicker. The other thing that's true is Washington State was good defensively last year, and they're not going to be good defensively this year. So that's the type of team I'm looking for, is maybe we can find a right opponent for a team to really torch that secondary that I think is going to be much worse than it was a year ago. And if they go from 125th in the nation in tempo to, say, 40th, the odds makers have to make a pretty big adjustment there on those totals lines.
Washington State was one of mine, so I'm glad we see eye to eye here. Yeah, Jimmy Rogers, he was a 76th in plays per game, but 126 in seconds per play, and he heads to the flatlands of Iowa State. But Kirby Moore, he is from the Eli Drinkwitz tree of offensive knowledge, and he was the OC at Missouri, right? Now, Missouri was a little slower than they have been in the past, but that was for reasons that their defense was really good and the running game was really good. So I think that was just a factor of that. But we remember Eli Drinkwitz is playing, pretty fast in general. So I think that this is one of the major ones. So I 100% agree with you on that one. I'm gonna get too easy on you. I'm gonna be a little too easy. I'll go LSU, Kyle. It's gonna be pretty substantial. I got Brian Kelly. They were pretty slow last year, 107th in seconds per play, 117th in total plays per game. Lane Kiffin comes in, Lane Train, right? Top 10. He was 11th in seconds per play last year. Could have been faster. This is a drastic, very slow to very fast.
It is. This is definitely one of mine as well. I will say they do run the football a lot, so it's not just going to be airing it out constantly. I think LSU will be much better at running the football than they were last year. At times last year, just had no chance of running. It really made it difficult on Nussmeier. As long as the offensive line is at least somewhat better, I think we'll see LSU getting more of those chunk plays in the run game this year. So it's not just going to be throw it around, but they're definitely going to play a lot faster and be some pretty exciting games.
All right, 100%. Let's go. Your turn. Pick another team.
All right, faster. Not really a team that was really slow last year, but we're just talking faster than they were last year. Marshall, the Thundering Herd, 52nd last year. Really good quarterback in Carlos Del Rio Wilson. He was much better than I thought he was going to be. I know he was at a bigger school before, but I didn't think he'd play so well. I think Marshall was better than their record last year. Coaching staff brings in a new OC, Smith, to bring the quote hyper fast to the team. He directed the Jacksonville State offense a couple years ago. Jacksonville State was the fastest paced team in the country that year, snapping it every 20.6 seconds. I think that Marshall will go from 52nd to like top 5 in tempo. So if Marshall goes the way that they say they're going to go, I think Marshall's going to have some higher scoring games. I also, as a bonus, I think Marshall is better than most people think. So I'll look to bet on Marshall or bet overs with Marshall. I think this is going to be a fast-paced team. They want to make quick decisions with a good quarterback, get it out really quick. I think Del Rio Wilson will do a good job in this system.
That's a great one. I didn't have them in my top, but I definitely had my eyes on them for speeding it up as well. So that's a great one right there. We'll look for Marshall to speed it up back like they were in the day. How about some Oklahoma State, Kyle? I mean, here I am being really Mr. Captain Obvious again, but you got Mike Gundy leaving that team in shambles, 110th in place per game, 65th in seconds per play, only because he was losing so much at the end. They had to speed it up. Eric Morris comes in with Drew Mestamaker. I expect top 10 like he was this year, 14th in seconds per play. And the only reason North Texas slowed it down at the end is because they were blowing out some teams. They're probably really in a close game, probably 1 or 2, weren't they, Kyle?
Yeah, top 5 for sure. And I think this is like the hanging curve of speed changes here. Kiev, I won't get too far off topic here because we are mainly talking about tempo changes. But some of these people are so high on Oklahoma State at this point, it kind of scares me. I mean, some of on the prediction markets and things, I mean, they're just betting this team like they're about to go 11-1 or 12-0, and like, I mean, gosh, these guys are going to be much improved, but pump the brakes a little bit here. Now they're not going to pump the brakes when they're playing, but I think they're not quite as good as some people are thinking now. This is not me saying I think they're just a straight fade or something, but over 5.5 for season wins like it first came out, okay. But if you're betting on them to go 10-2 or make the playoffs or something, I think you're going to be disappointed.
6 wins is fair. I agree with you. I mentioned that in the other show. I mean, everyone thought Southern Miss was going to win the Sun Belt when Charlie White, not Weiss, but we were just talking about coach from Marshall going there. And then, they won over their early win total, but I think if you got it really late, you missed out on that. Right. So, the truth is that just because a bunch of FCS guys goes into Division I does not mean that, you're going to get the same results. And I think people got to be very careful with that. Right. So that's huge. Good call. Next one I have is Northern Illinois. So with Northern Illinois, Tom Hammock, 126 in plays per game, 97th in seconds per play. They kind of knew they were a bad team, but Rob Harley gets promoted from defensive coordinator, but that doesn't mean slow because Quinn Sanders comes in as offensive coordinator from the University of Charleston. Now, they scored a lot of points at the University of Charleston. I think that even if you don't quite get the pace, you're going to get a more efficient offense at least. So I have to go to very slow, at least to medium fast on this one.
Yeah, that's what I think it'd be, somewhere medium, but that's still a pretty big upgrade from what they were before. I will say, I think they're going to struggle quite a bit this season. So I'll be looking for spots to fade them ATS. I think this is a weird conference change. They're going to be in some really weird situations, trying to change the way they play completely. I'm not convinced that it's going to work out that well from the start.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think we're gonna have to give it some time. Defensive coordinator moves up. I mean, come on, that's not really a splash, right? I think this team could like play fast and lose fast, so probably a fade situation, right? So hopefully
Yeah.
the other teams put up some serious points against them, and I really think that teams will put up some serious points against them. What do you have next?
Well, this is kind of an easy one too, but Northwestern, 129th last year. What do they go to now? I mean, I've read they don't want to go hyper fast, but they do want to play fast. Maybe 50th, something like that. But if you go from 129 to 50th or 55th, that's a pretty big tempo change. A lot of RPO looks. They're going to be heavy on the run game. So I think what's going to be really important when you see Northwestern is what's the other team's defensive front look like? Because I don't see anybody on Northwestern that looks like they're just going to be able to chuck it all over the place and have star wide receivers or anything. So can Northwestern run the ball on the opponent is going to be the key to the breakdown, even when it comes to totals. I mean, because you could play relatively fast but be super inefficient. I think Chip Kelly is a good offensive coordinator, but he doesn't have Oregon guys or Ohio State guys.
Right.
It's not to bash Northwestern. I think he has some pretty good running backs, but they don't have the same type of caliber of recruits that he's had in the past. So I don't know that it's going to just be working out that well to just score tons of points. So they'll go faster. I'm not sure how efficient they'll be right away.
Yeah, yep, I don't either. So that's definitely one to think about here. I had them written down. I'm going to go with North Carolina here, Kyle. And I just have to find my notes again here as I scroll down. North Carolina is a team that, obviously you got Bill Belichick over there, right? And I wrote them as UNC. That's why. Okay, that'll be a problem. But Bobby Petrino comes in from Arkansas, and this is a guy that was pretty fast in the year before. 21st is what he kind of ranked in plays per game. So I think that, looking at North Carolina, 132nd in plays per game and 118th in seconds per play. This is like a coordinator change. That's not necessarily a coaching change, but I think that Bill Belichick's got to make a little bit of a splash. So I'm just going to go from very slow to medium fast in this. But that's kind of like a one that maybe no one's thinking about.
Yeah, this one really intrigues me. I mean, North Carolina had to change something. Their offense was really, really bad last year, and that was against a weak schedule. Now North Carolina plays a much better schedule. I think they'll be better on offense, but I think there's a good chance they'll be somewhat worse on defense. It makes their games a little bit complicated to handicap because I don't know that they're going to be really efficient on offense, especially to start with. I think North Carolina's win total has been bet down for good reason. I don't think they'll be very good, but Petrino's been good in the past, and Belichick obviously knows what he's doing. So this is one of the more intriguing teams to me. Could they surprise and have a decent season in what's not a great conference? Possibly. It's just kind of hard to see it on paper, but they had to change something big. So I do think they'll play faster by a good amount.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, your turn.
Faster, Nevada.
Okay.
Nevada 128th last year in tempo. Up tempo, air raid. Bartoloni, I don't know if I pronounced that correct or not, but the new offensive coordinator was under Mike Leach in the past. He played under him. Nevada wants to play really quick, QB to release the ball really quickly. I don't know. Nevada's a team I have wait and see as far as whether I want to bet on or against them ATS, but I do think that I want to look for spots to play overs because they had some low scoring games the last couple of years. I mean, they've been pretty low compared to the average team
Yeah.
in their league. So I'm kind of hoping that this one flies a little bit under the radar.
I'm glad you mentioned that one because I did not have that, so I missed it, and I will be adding that to my repertoire. That makes total sense to me. How under the radar do you want to go? How about this? Let's just go to Auburn. Hugh Freeze, he was. See, what's funny about this? This is I don't know how much faster it's going to be. He was 22nd in plays per game, but 40th in seconds per play. But you got Alex Golish that's coming in that was second in seconds per play, right? So even though you were kind of fast, I think that Auburn could really speed it up this year, Kyle.
Absolutely. Different level of speed there. Golesh is very committed to playing fast. And I think, there's question marks around him, but he's got a quarterback that he wants and a guy that's a dual threat quarterback. I think Auburn will play very fast. So I absolutely think that's worthy of mentioning here. If you go from where did you say you had them as far as speed last year?
Auburn was 40th in seconds per play, but they were 20. I will say they were 22nd in plays per game. So they did get off a lot of plays, and that sometimes just depends upon how games are finishing. But seconds per play is the better tell.
Yeah, and I think they're going to go from 40th in seconds per play to definitely in the top 10. So that's very noteworthy. And I think Auburn's defense, I mean, Kiev, if you look at their defense from last year, they lost a lot of talent from last year's defense. I mean, they're going to have a really hard time putting up defensive numbers that are close to what they did last year. So I think some Auburn overs makes a lot of sense.
All right. Well, we'll be looking at Auburn overs. Any other fast ones that you want to hit?
Let's go to some under the radar, slower ones.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you. Can I give you one more fast one?
Yeah.
This one's interesting. It's another coordinator change. Kendall Briles comes in from the offense coordinator job at TCU to save South Carolina here. So the Gamecocks were 86 in plays per game, 62nd in seconds per play, but they probably speeded up to the 30s more like TCU. So I just wanted to kind of throw that one out there a little bit that South Carolina should speed it up a little bit, that big quarterback, and hopefully score a few more points in a very competitive SEC. I'm not so sure South Carolina is going to have that good defensive front that they always have in the past too. So you might see some points coming from Lenora Sellers this year. Let's go to slower. You have the floor, Kyle.
All right, so let's start with North Texas. We've talked about them from last year. North Texas is going to be much, much worse than they were last year. This is the biggest power ratings downgrade you could make. They were 13th quickest in tempo last year, but like you said, they really actually played faster than that. They just were stopping at the end of the game because they were up so much. Gone is Eric Morris, Messmaker and crew. Neil Brown comes in. He doesn't have any choice but to slow things down. They went from being a dominant team to having one of the weakest rosters in the American. They're going to try to run the ball with White at running back, keep the really weak North Texas defense off the field as much as they can. The problem is they're really weak on the offensive line. And to me, I think this team's going to go from 13th quickest to 100th. I mean, possibly they'll be faster than that just because they're losing by so much in some of these games. But I really do think that this team is going to be just a drastic slowdown. I think if their defense can hold teams at all, they could be a good under team, but I might look to bet against them as well.
I don't like the hire for North Texas, Kyle, and I had this as one of my 4. I only had 4 drastic ones here, and obviously great minds think alike. Neil Brown, man, he's so feels like old school Troy type situation. Tried it at West Virginia for 5 years. Maybe he goes back to his roots where his pace for his ranking a little bit more in the 50s, but man, I think it's going to be slower. And like we said before, North Texas way faster than just 14 seconds per play. So this was one of my bigger ones here, going from very fast to medium at best, right? I think there could be even a little bit slower there. So I agree with that. Amla Macera has a question here, process question, looking ahead to week 0 and 1. given that these lines have been available for months, should we wait for the higher limits to open and let the market move, possibly creating more opportunity? Kyle, you want to hit that first?
Yeah, shout out Michael. Good question. Know him; he's a good guy. Um, I think weeks 0 and 1 are really tricky to bet because those lines have sat there for such a long time. This is nothing like the rest of the regular season. Um, it's I think going too big on them right now is unwise. Like you said, there's not the highest limits anyways, but maybe you want to let some people market move these to spots that you think there's opportunity to fade the move. I think some people overrate the steam moves and, look how the steam has done in the past. Yeah, they bet it 3 points better. And we know that 3 points matters a lot. I am a little bit cautious when it comes to week 0 and 1, when it comes to timing the market. I think it would be from just a betting standpoint. If you bet these lines in May or June, you got game of the year numbers or you got some of the best numbers, you're going to get some great closing line value. Right now, what do? I mean, the market's made them pretty efficient, but yet, like you said, the limits are not the highest. There haven't been all the releases by the big names. They're going to move the number by 3 or 4 points immediately. Some of the services and such. I haven't bet these games hardly at all so far, and I usually don't bet quite as many games in week 0 and 1 as I do in 2, 3, and 4 when I try to look for the overreactions, especially on a side standpoint. So I guess I would say at this point, you'd probably be better off to wait for the market to move around a little bit more, because I think the great opportunities that were there if you're betting these back in May and June probably really not there anymore. But me personally, probably not going to fire away on a million games in week 0 or week 1. Play a little bit cautiously.
Yeah, I mean, like the limits haven't been that low. I mean, I know some guys putting some big money down on some stuff since I think since FanDuel and DraftKings and some of the bigger books, they've really expanded limits. Like before, when Vegas had just a hold of everything, that stopped everything. Right? There was no way that it's almost like they had an oligopoly or a monopoly, you can say, on it, so kind of controlling everything. And now it's opened it up. And the truth is that if there really is a big move this late, are you sure it's wrong? Because you're going against a pretty educated move, being that these lines are be out now. Maybe you might have your own number, but you'll have to double check it. If you're really certain on it, you could know more than the market. That's why we bet. If none of us ever felt we knew more than the market, we would never bet. It'd be ridiculous to do it. What are you doing out there? But that's why line value is so important, and what Kyle talked about. So I think it's a great question. It's a perfect time of year for that question, Mike. So thanks for asking it. And we're always trying to figure that out, but there is steam that follows some of the big sharp moves. So the steam could put it past like a 37 or something for a total, or a 44, or some sort of key totals number that 50 and a half is a big, to 51 is a big move too, and so you'll always see a lot of the numbers stuck over there. So keep that in mind, that the steam, just if someone bets it at 50 and a half and it's big enough, they might not like it at 51 and a half, and it might move to 51 and a half. Right. And that's where, there could be some value the other way. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah. I think the other thing about that is, there's not a perfect answer to anything like that. I mean, I don't think that any one person can just say, this is exactly what you should do from, August 19th or 20th on, if you've waited this long and haven't bet the week 0, week 1. The other thing you got to consider is weather could matter. I mean, you never know, there could be a hurricane hits if you bet a big over or something like that. I don't love betting big without having any idea about the weather and some of the places where we know that could matter. That matters more for totals than it does sides. But, I haven't been quick to jump on those. I've bet quite a few of the season win totals, and I'll bet more in weeks 2, 3, and 4.
Absolutely. All right, my turn. South Florida. Obviously, what comes around goes around. I have to mention So, Alex Golish speeded someone up. I think Brian Hartline goes in there and slows it down a bit. I always think if Ryan Day did coach a group of 6 team, I think he'd play faster than he does now. It's just that when you have those types of studs on defense, it's better not to, and not to hurt your players. But at the same time, this is still going to be a massive, at least very fast to medium move with Hartline there. And to be honest with you, I do like the hire. I do like South Florida's hire. I do like Hartline, and I expect this pace to go a lot down.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people have disagreed on exactly what they will be. Will they be slow? Will they be kind of medium? Well, they're going to be slower than they were last year for sure. And the OC hire, some people think, well, maybe they'll want to play fast. Even if they play relatively quick, it's going to be a lot slower than it was last year. So USF, I do think, made a really good hire, especially, he's such a good recruiter. And being in Florida, they should be able to pick up some really good talent.
Very fertile recruiting grounds in South Florida. Your turn for fast to slower.
So Colorado State, we talked about them briefly earlier. I feel like I'm talking about a lot of Mountain West teams, Kiev. I think
we should have did a Mountain West pod with you.
Mountain West Pac-12 type teams have been on the radar a lot here. Yeah, we should have done that. But I mean, you got Colorado State. They were 30th in tempo last year, slowing down, getting rid of the air raid. They say pivoting to a methodical, deliberate run-first ball control tempo, controlling the game on the ground. If you want to control the game on the ground, get away from the fast pace, I think that definitely plays toward heavier rush volume, burn the play clock. This does kind of mimic what they did at UConn. I know they ended up having Fagnano, who was a really good quarterback, but they don't have anybody like that here. And I think they're going to try to run the football, save their defense up. And I think Colorado State goes from 30th or so in tempo to, 80th or something like that.
That's definitely a good one. I'm going to go Cal. Justin Wilcox, obviously, finally out of there, but he had to speed it up over the past. 49 in place per game, 53rd in seconds per play. But Tosh 2.0, I says, comes in. Defensive mind. He comes from Oregon. Strong defense. The whole thing with their offensive coordinator there, though, is it Harrison they hire? I think it was Harrison. I that's a question, but he hasn't been coaching in years. It's not like he blew me away before, but I just think that in the beginning, he's going to want to kind of not put too much on JKS, his quarterback, and he's going to keep it a little bit slower than it was last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Cal's the team that I have a lot of questions about. JKS is great, but the talent around him is not fantastic. I think they really don't have that good of an offensive line. Their running game is pretty non-existent. I don't know if it's going to work right as well for Cal as what some people think this year. But I'll go with another one here, Kiev. Let's see, slower. Like you said, there's not quite as many of these. TCU is going to play slower.
Yeah, I agree.
Gordon Samus comes in to tone down the tempo, go away from the high-speed spread packages. Honestly, it's kind of surprising to me, given who the head coach is, that they're going to play slower, but it sure looks like they're committed to playing slower. They want to go with the pro-style scheme, the heavy physical run package, instead of rapid snap rates. They said, quote, adaptable control. We can play at any tempo, but we don't want to go ultra fast. To me, that tells you that they're going to slow down quite a bit from what they have been in the past.
I think the whole Big 12, I agree with that. And I think the whole Big 12 is kind of getting slower with the defensive orientation of like the Texas Techs and the Utahs and the Houstons, right? Yeah, these are some very big defensive teams. You have to remember how good Arizona's defense was last year too. So I mean, it's weird. We used to kind of think there's no defense in the Big 12, and I kind of feel like that narrative is kind of shifting a little bit this year. So no disagreement here. James Madison, I'm going to say, slows it down a little bit. Bob Chesney, 30th in place per game. What's weird about them, Kyle, this is hard to get your grasp. They were like in the hundreds in seconds per play, but this was a team that was blowing teams out a lot. And that just shows you when you're 30th in plays per game, you're just getting a lot of plays out there because at the end you're kind of running it. I feel like, in their shootouts, they would be a little bit faster. But this is Billy Napier coming in here. And even if he doesn't go that slow, I don't expect a lot out of them. To be honest with you, I like their season win total under 8.5. I know that they don't have a huge non-conference, but I just can't fathom a team that lost everybody, even if it's James Madison, with a new coach and Billy Napier coming from failing in Florida to win a lot of games right there. So there's a season win total I like, clearly under 8.5, but I expect it to be even slower this year, Kyle.
Yeah, I think so too. I think expectations are still pretty high for them compared to how much they lost. I mean, I think it is tough to live up to that kind of expectation.
Absolutely. Well, I'm running out of slow teams. I don't know if you have any more.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon, I think, is going to play slower than they have in the past. Oregon brings in Drew Maringer, and they say they're, quote, pivoting away from a high-speed, go a million miles an hour tempo. He was elevated from tight ends coach and focus more on execution, analytical play calling. I still kind of think that Oregon didn't go that fast, but their tempo numbers are kind of skewed too. They were winning by a lot. It looks like a team that wants to be a little bit more physical, try to really promote using that offensive line that's always been very good the last few seasons. I think Oregon will go slower than they have. I don't think it'll be a drastic slowdown, but we think of the Oregon Ducks being a really fast-paced team, and I don't really think they are.
We always used to think of them like that for sure. I agree. What about Oregon? Maybe Oregon State a little bit. Jamarcus Shepard comes in here, groomed from the Kalen DeBoer tree of knowledge. He's. I think Kalen wasn't that fast in Alabama. Maybe he was at times before in his Fresno State years or his Washington years. But I feel like this team was fast last year and they lost by a lot of points because of it. Kyle, you remember some of those shootouts that Oregon State would be in last year. I feel like this could be one that's slowing down. I didn't have it as drastic, but the more I think about it, I would throw Oregon State maybe in there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, just by necessity, if anything else. I mean, what are we going to do? Because we don't have the talent some of these other teams do. We want to keep it close. This is that type of situation.
Yeah, it's like when you come in as first year coach and the team was playing fast, you don't want to do that again. You don't want people see the same thing that happened to you when you have that bad talent. So yeah, that's something. Or both Oregons, I guess, Oregon and Oregon State is something I'll add to the radar. Any other ones before we get into a little bit of bets?
I think that's good. I mean, there's a few others out there. I think Iowa State's a slowdown. I'll say one more. We already said Big 12, slower pace, but I think Iowa State wants to play really slow. The question is, are they going to be down by so much that they have to speed up? I mean, if you look at the way that they really want to play and be really physical, aggressive, I think Iowa State's going to be snapping the ball at, 1 or 2 seconds on the play clock pretty consistently. Now, what does that do from total standpoint? Because I think their defense is not very good. I'm not saying just blindly bet unders. I'm saying I think they'll go slow.
Yeah, maybe they do slow down. It's Jimmy Rogers, 125th in seconds per play from Washington State. So that makes total sense to me right there. I actually had a typo in this, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I do expect it slower. A bit itself. So we'll look at them from going from medium to medium slow at least. That makes total sense to me. Well, let's move on to a few bets maybe. It'd be a shame if I didn't ask Kyle about some bets. Season win totals you like, and I guess as long as it's kind of close to where you bet it, Kyle, I think it probably makes sense, but you can start wherever you want.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy that says, hey, I got this amazing ticket on this one and now it's 2 wins lower. So I'm not going to do that. Um, I like Marshall. I kind of hinted at this earlier. I like Marshall over 7.5. You can get this plus money. Uh, they're going to play that hyper fast. I think it's going to work. I mean, they have a really deep group of pass catchers, probably the deepest in the Sun Belt. Defensively, much improved in the secondary. They got a lot of teams that like to throw it around in the Sun Belt. Look at Marshall's schedule too. I mean, I have them as a favorite of more than a touchdown 8 times this season, an underdog of more than 7 points once, and I'm asking them to get to 8 wins here. I think they have a good chance of winning 9, so I'm going to take a plus money price on over 7.5.
All right, plus money on over 7.5. That makes total sense to me. I like it, and I'll write that one down as well. Kyle's, you're the first person I heard talking too much about Marshall. So, yeah, I mean, no, it's nice to hear something fresh, man. I like it. I like it a lot. Let's go with. I've given these out all year. Cincinnati under 5.5 wins makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I also like Duck telling us, and when he came on the show, under 3.5 conference wins. I don't see too many games this team's winning. Like I said, nobody there to bet on them this year, right? This team lost a lot. They don't recruit well. I feel like it's curtains for the coach over there, and it's just too hard a competition for a team that's not used to like shedding everybody and rebuilding the very next year. Their recruiting is bad. Their transfer portal is bad. There's just no way that I could see them getting to a bowl game this year, Kyle.
Well, in Kiev, I mean, the downgraded quarterback is just drastic. I mean, it's how they didn't win a ton of games with a great quarterback, and now they bring in a quarterback that I have a lot of questions about.
Yeah.
I mean, that defense better be way better than they were last year. They're about to lose a lot of games. I think that's a good play.
And I've never been a Scott Satterfield guy either.
No, neither have I. So I'll go with a conference wins one here, Kiev. This one's a little juicy now, definitely juicier than it was when I bet it, but I still like it. Sacramento State under 3.5 wins in the MAC. I think Sacramento State's going to be bad, really bad. I mean, this is a team that really thought they were going to be in the FCS this year. Instead, they're in FBS. They kind of get pushed forward to a league that I'm not saying the MAC's really good, Kiev, but there are some pretty good players in the MAC, pretty decent teams in the MAC. This is a big step up from where they've been. I mean, I favor Sacramento State in only one game in MAC play, home against UMass. I have them pick them at home against Kent State. Probably most people would have them as a favorite slightly in that game, but I think Kent could be a little better than some people think. I really liked the under 5.5 for regular season wins when it was first out, but now that one has moved and 3.5 conference wins is still available, that's what I would bet at this point.
3.5 conference wins, huh?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a rough road for them.
I'm going to join you. I've heard too much about this from our sharper colleagues here, and I just have not gotten involved, and I have to do it now that Kyle said it. I'm joining you on Sacramento State under 3.5 conference wins. That makes total sense to me. And some of these I've already given out, but I'm going to go with Miami, Ohio over 6.5. I did lay some juice here, -180. I think now that the MAC is wide open, now that the Toledo coach left, and maybe Toledo does bounce back pretty soon. I don't think it's going to be on the first year, but I think Ohio's been down since their coach, had the alcohol problem and they had to switch coaches over there. Miami, Ohio was kind of in a rebuild year last year, and I think they return enough production here to kind of build them back up and win this conference. And I'm not worried about Western Michigan because they lost their linebackers and their defensive line, Kyle. I'm going to be doing a MAC show tomorrow, but just hint over 6.5 for Miami, Ohio.
I like that too. I mean, both of the ones that you said, I've liked a good amount.
Nice.
Those might both be in my accounts. So
all right, well, there you go.
I like them.
And I swear I've not looked at Kyle's accounts. I swear.
Right. I already talked about North Texas, Kiev. It was better when it was under 6.5, but I think 5.5 at plus money is still a good bet. just so much worse than they were last year. They had the 137th rated recruiting class out of 138. Um, and they tried to do work in the portal, but if you look at the guys that they brought in, North Texas in the portal, they're guys that didn't even really start where they were. So, I mean, it's like potentially they could be good, but there's nothing here that's proven that.
Right.
And I mean, I think 0-3 is likely at the start. I think 4-8 looks a lot more likely than 6-6. So if you give me under 5.5 at plus money, I'm taking that. I don't think there's really. I have them favored by more than a touchdown, just 3 times, and they're going to be an underdog of more than 3.7 times. So you got some games that are kind of in the middle there, and you're an underdog a lot. Unless they're pulling a lot of upsets, I think they're going to lose a lot of games here.
Yeah, I agree with that too. You can grab some plus money on a. I mean, they can just be one short of a bowl, and you still win this bet, and you get plus money at the 5.5. So I'm liking that. Mike has a question. Mike Monson, FY4KK. Not sure what that means. When you say tempo changes, are you talking about phasing out of the up tempo offense? I remember that fan from my 2012 to 2019. So yeah, I don't know what tempo changes just means goes faster or slower. It means how many seconds per play. Like the slower teams are like in the 30 seconds per play. Iowa's, Wisconsin's, Army's, Navy's, and then the faster ones, like North Texas last year, like South Florida, probably Oklahoma State this year is around 21 seconds per play. And so when you have like 70 some plays a game, there's just that much less opportunity to put on points. So tempo plus efficiency usually is a good predictor of points. Kyle, did I answer that right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that in general we have gone a little bit out of. I think he's correct that we're phasing out some of the extreme up tempos, but you can't say that with a broad brush because you still have the Alex Golesh, the Eric Morris, people like that they're going to play really fast. Heupel, people like that are going to go as fast as they possibly can. We're just looking for big changes from the previous year.
Lane Kiffin's going to go fast in the SEC.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. And you have to understand when something changes, then it changes back because somebody wants to be ahead of the next curve, right? So it kind of comes in waves. But yeah, you're right. Since the clock doesn't stop now until towards the end of the game, like they that was what 3-4 years ago, Kyle, when we complained about that. That kind of NFL college a little bit, and so that was annoying. So I think when you saw those FIU numbers of 78 points, right? Remember the good old days, Kyle? We go over some of those big numbers. Those don't exist no more.
There's remember the Baylor totals with RG3?
Yeah,
you can get some like 80s, 81s. Yeah. I mean, that was just insane. I don't think we're gonna see that again. But yeah, I mean, in general, the rules have changed a bit, but we're looking for the big changes where a team was something before, they're going to be something completely different, so we can find some betting value.
Yes, absolutely. That's kind of what you're looking for. And like we said, it's going to be a short lived because after week 1, week 2, the books will start to adjust. Maybe it won't be drastic enough for week 2, and you can still jump on something, or you can find some over adjustments too that you said, well, they still should be lower. There's been some luck. They're at perfect red zone efficiency. There was 3 turnovers and 2 was a fumble 6, pick 6. So look into that as well, when checking this stuff out. Any other season win totals, Kyle?
Let's move on to the next topic. I know we got a couple other things to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. So college football futures. This is fun because sometimes, there's some long shots you can take. There's some conference winners that you can take. What kind of futures are you looking at this year?
Well, Kiev, I told you I like the Miami pick. I like Miami to win the MAC. So, I mean, we're thinking similarly. Yeah. The MAC feels pretty wide open to me. I mean, where's the dominant team in the MAC now? I mean, Toledo had the best roster as far as talent many of the years. They just got tripped up by somebody they shouldn't have lost to many times.
Like all the time?
Yeah. I mean, frequently. We won't delve into that too far, but Miami has been really strong under Chuck Martin in the trenches every single year. I know people are going to say, well, they don't really have that good of a quarterback, but did they really have a good quarterback last year? I mean, Finn quit the team with a lot of the season left, and I don't know. I mean, Miami, they struggle in the non-con, so they're going to lose some game, whether it be the first game of the year or one of those first two or three games really badly, and somebody's going to think Miami's not very good. But I think they're going to round into form when it comes to MAC time. So I like them to win the MAC here. I don't
All
have enough
right.
to know exactly what the price is now, but I know you can get a pretty good price because there's nobody as a big favorite.
Oh yeah, I got it at plus 410 when I bet the season win total, and so I was probably under the same thinking as you. I think I bet this on July 5th, and so it's probably around the plus 300 some ranges. I think I do have a little bit of line value, but I just took the half the size of my season win total bet and bet them to win the MAC because you can hedge that too. When you get to that championship game, it's not going to be some massive dog where you're worried about like playing Miami of Florida if you're like NC State or something, right? You don't have to worry about that kind of hedge. I think it's going to be
Right.
rather substantial. There's a lot of things that you can look at. I'm going to look towards. I'm going to give you a long shot on Fafita. If you want to get this Heisman bet, he's over 101, but Arizona win the Big 12 is plus 2,200. Maybe they're okay. Their schedule is so easy until October 31st. They have the only tough game is at BYU, but if they can sneak, it's early. It's like the second game of the season. If they can just get that win at BYU, they're just going to roll through all the easy teams, the Cincinnati's, the UCFs, the West Virginias of the Big 12, and they get them all nice and early. And then it's not until October 31st where they have to play Texas Tech. And who knows who's quarterbacking for Texas Tech by then. I mean, there are a little bit of quarterback issues, but I know that they clearly have the most talented team at Texas Tech. But you know what? 22-1. I wanted to be a little bit different here. I have a little belief in Fafita and that defense from what they did last year. And I'm not a Brent Brennan guy. You know that, Kyle. He shocked me a little bit last year. Maybe he got better. People are allowed to get better. So that's a long shot that I'm taking.
First, I think Brent Brennan did well because he hired two really good coordinators. I mean, the
Yeah.
OC and DC, I think, are very good. You hire the right people around you, it can make you look really good. And I love Fafita. I haven't bet this one. I'm not saying I don't like it, but this is one of the first ones that I actually didn't have that you said. So not one that I have bet. I did bet Texas Tech at plus 100 to win the Big 12. I think they'll at least get to the Big 12 title game, and then they'll be a decent sized favorite.
If they do, they're going to be a big favorite, right? Is that
Yeah.
fair to say? I would say
Yeah,
so.
I think big favorite for sure. So that's what I bet there in the Big 12. I have one other one for you that's kind of a long shot. 8-1, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
I like Army to win the American. I think
Army.
Army, that offensive line is so good. I know their defense isn't great, but I think Monken's just a really good coach. Helms has another year there at quarterback. I think they're going to wear down opponents' defenses, and I think Army could be a decent amount better than people think. So I'm going to take Army as a longer shot there to win the American.
All right. Little Army action. And I haven't heard Army yet either. I've heard a couple whispers about him though. As of late, I like South Florida at 8-1 to win. So there you go. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think Navy can be as good without Horvath and
right.
that receiver they lost and a couple other guys. I think that option teams in general, you should not bet week one. You should kind of let themselves fumble it at first and then they'll figure it out. But yeah, Army could be the team this year, and I can make an argument for a lot of teams. So I'm glad he took a longer shot. I think UTSA is kind of everyone's like darling this year in the American, and I could see them doing it. It's just I don't like the number. I mean, I like the Heartline higher and a great recruiting ground in South Florida, and so that's my kind of way of looking at it. And if they can go over 8.5 wins, then I can at least cash and the rest is gravy because that's the bigger bet. I got plus 115 on that. So that's kind of one itself. So any other big long shots, Heisman, anything for Heisman, anything like that?
I almost never bet the Heisman, Kiev. I mean, I know some people are really good at this, but just not something I really handicap. Um, so no, I mean, I bet more of the season win totals than I do on futures. So I think that that pretty much does it for me. At least ones that are close to the line that's available now. So I do think also that the Americans as wide open as you could get. I wouldn't want to bet somebody as a sizable favorite. And the one thing about UTSA is, can they win away from home? I mean, they look way different when they go on the road as compared to
They
at
do.
home. So, that's my question about them. I think they're good, and I think they'll win quite a few games, but they're going to have to win a big game on the road at some point.
Yeah, their defense has been worse over the past few years as well. So that's got to definitely be fixed. So I like Dante Moore for Heisman, to be honest with you. I think Oregon's the kind of team, even if they do slow it down, Kyle, like you mentioned, I still think they're the team that will keep scoring against other teams. I like betting on teams that, kind of were bounced out of the playoffs embarrassingly, like they were against Indiana. And I think there's going to be some motivation there. That's why I think Notre Dame will go undefeated this year, actually, in the regular season. Then they lose in the playoffs. But I like Dante Moore just because he's the kind of guy that will put out that will put up the big numbers. And their defense isn't like Ohio State or Notre Dame defense. They're not like the recruits you get in Texas. I feel like their defense is good, but that's not going to keep. They let James Madison score 30 points last year. They could backdoor covered that game last year in the playoffs. So I like Dante Moore at over 10-1. He's 13-1 right now at FanDuel. I actually had a worse number when I bet it. I bet it at 12-1. So there you go. Fox Mulder looking for bets. Which one of the future bets do you have the highest conviction on? That's so funny because like it's all depends upon the number. I mean, I would say Texas Tech at plus 100, that Kyle said, it's like, I have the highest conviction on that, but yeah, like the most value bet, it could be a little different. I mean, if you gave me Ole Miss at 500-1 to win the SEC, even though you think Georgia's going to win it, that'd be the most value. I mean, Kyle, how you want to answer that?
Well, I mean, am I taking the easy way out if I say I really like the win totals better than the futures? And since I kind of lump them together, I'm going to tell you what my favorite win total was of the ones that I said today. I like the Sacramento State under.
Okay.
That's my favorite of the win totals. I did bet a lot at 5.5 on the regular season. That's been juiced down heavily. I like the 3.5 under on the conference. Texas Tech, I think, is a good at plus 100. And Miami of Ohio would be my second favorite there.
I'll give you one. New Mexico plus 265 to win the Mountain West. This is the Mountain West. You don't have to deal with Fresno State anymore. You don't have to deal with Boise State anymore. You don't have to deal with San Diego State anymore. I think, and they get UNLV at home and they get Air Force at home. Okay. So I think that they're going to get to the championship game. So I think my favorite future bet at that plus type of situation is New Mexico. And man, well, holy cow, have they really just stepped that program up? I mean, this was a program, and I'm trying to find where my little write up is on them. This was a program that was really in the dumps, and they really fixed it, hadn't they, Kyle?
Eck is tremendous.
Jason Eck, there he is. I was looking. His name was on the tip of my tongue.
He's as good as you get, and he'll probably have a different job going forward if he wants one. He's done such a good job. New Mexico's defense is better than most people realize, and I think that really turned them around a lot. I have no disagreement with that bet either.
Yeah, there's a reason why FanDuel doesn't have that up for a conference for some reason. They have every single other one, even the Pac-12, but they don't have the Mountain West. That's interesting. No, that's probably my favorite, but I also like the Miami, Ohio a lot as well. Well, Kyle, that brings us to week 0, week 1. You have anything for our listeners here that could maybe give them a good bang for the buck?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest and say, Kiev, I haven't been looking at the week-to-week games that much yet. I mean, I spent a lot of time looking at the pace changes. I spent a lot of time looking at the win totals and futures. Not been firing away on a lot of these, but I do have a couple that I like at least somewhat. Um, I think Jacksonville State, North Dakota State's a fun game. I like that one quite a bit. I mean, Kiev, I think the people that took the plus 7.5 when it was available probably got a good bet there. North Dakota State's fun. Quarterback factory over through the years. Are they going to be down at quarterback here? Probably. I hate to doubt the program too much in this spot, but Jacksonville State's pretty good, and I think Jacksonville State's defense is good as well. I think under or Jacksonville State is what I like in that game, which makes me think that when these numbers come out, what I'm probably going to bet here is North Dakota State team total under. So this is kind of a look ahead from me, is that I think North Dakota State team total under is probably going to be my favorite bet there. I think Jacksonville State's defensive line is very good. They're one of the lines that could hold up against the North Dakota State offensive front, which is their strength of their team. So I'm looking forward to that. Powerhouse FCS team steps into the Mountain West.
Week 0.
It'd be fun to see how they do.
Yeah, I bet that one at plus 8.5, actually, Kyle. So
Nice.
it was plus 8.5 at BetMGM and at FanDuel for a while too. So it's only a plus 6.5 right now. So it's going down. So you got to pivot to team totals when that happens sometimes. But great point on the defensive line. Jacksonville State is a very, very good team in the Conference USA, and there's a reason they're favored. One of the favorites to win it with Liberty. And, we did a Conference USA pod last week, and I agree that they definitely have a good defensive front and should slow down North Dakota State. And here's another thing. When a team joins the FBS from the FCS, everyone's circling them. Nobody wants to look like they're embarrassed. They're going to give it their best. They're going to show up no matter what. They are not going to be pushed around by a team that was just in the FCS. That's just a mental handicap right there. So there might still be some value there at plus 6.5. I'll give you a total that I think is going to go over this, and this was one of my favorite totals. I bet Washington State over 50.5, Kyle. And I like that because of, what we said about Washington State, right? And how we expect major pace games. And number 2, Damon Williams puts up points. He's going to put up points. You're going to have a faster pace. This is the Apple Cup right in the beginning. I could definitely see a shooter. Defense is maybe not so comfortable just yet. I think that this closes past north of 50 and 51.5. So I like it still at 50.5, where it's sitting right now, week 1.
Yeah, this is one of them I have on my leans list to possibly bet myself. So I like this play. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's so weird to see the Apple Cup in the first game. At least we get to see them play each other. But yeah, I like it. I think Washington, Damon Williams is so good. Some people still underrate him. I think that's a good look. Are you sure you don't want to talk about Ball State and Ohio State with the 50.5 point line? No, we don't have to talk about that.
Probably not. We can go to USC San Jose State if you want.
Right.
It's a 40-point spread, and a lot of people think USC might cover it, which they might, but it's tough to lay those big numbers in the beginning, and there's still some situations where people are trying to work off the jitters, work off the dust, and that's kind of what you get. So those are 2 plays that Kyle and I like for college football week 0, week 1. Kyle, can't believe we've been already talking an hour and 15 minutes, but we got to end this show sometime, my man. You're the best. We plan on doing some work throughout the season. Where could our listeners get your great information and plays?
Yeah, always a good time, Kiev. Glad to be able to come on here and chat some football. And you can check out my work at huntersportspicks.com. You can get the plays from there. You can get the free picks newsletter. Follow me over at KyleHunterPicks on X and YouTube channel, which I'm going to try to do more with this year throughout the year. And I hope Kiev and I can do more throughout the year. So look forward to that. And I'll do some of the spaces as well on X. So we're going to crank things up again here soon. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys follow Kyle at KyleHunterPicks.